Good morning. On this week's episode of Haston Helping Hands, I'm going to talk to you about water, streams of support, and a village rather than a cottage. So I, being of the opinion and the notion that attribution really matters, wanted to make sure I got the statement right that it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a village to do a lot more than that. And I was under the mistaken impression that it belonged to Hillary Clinton. And it turns out that it's an African proverb. And so I wanted to make sure to share that with you first of all. And I think that in our current situation, which is everybody is either at home, starting to go back to school, things like that, it's really easy to get bogged down in who does what job. And it takes a village is a really helpful phrase in the sense that it takes more than one person. And if you are raising a child by yourself, that doesn't mean that you can't raise a child because you are one person. It means that you need a community, you need help, you need people to support you. And one of the things that I've been talking about with a friend of mine recently is the importance of support and where that comes from and how it is that we can support each other. Something that I'm really big on saying to the people who are my streams of support is how can I support you? Which is kind of a hard question to answer sometimes. I've gotten answers like, give me space, which is very hard for me because as a doer of things and somebody who really wants to take action, I mean, you tell me a problem, I'm halfway there to trying to solve it for you. And that's not always what people need, which is where the appropriation of the phrase poor baby came from. And I do want to attribute that now. It's actually a writer named Jennifer Cruzy who writes romance novels. The phrase was coined in a book called Faking It, which I really, truly love. I highly recommend you check it out. But basically it means that the poor baby is, I just want you to listen to me. I just want you to say, gosh, I'm so sorry. And, you know, it takes different forms with different people. Sometimes it's, I want a poor baby and a little bit of advice, or I want a poor baby and no advice. And so you really have to be listening to find out the best way to support. So where did the streams of support come from? My good friend, Senator Green. She has talked a little bit to me about, because I'm a singer and also a public speaker, she said that an EMT one time told her that everybody who's in that boat should be drinking a gallon of water. And I was feeling pretty putrid last week. In fact, I was almost sure that I had contracted COVID. So I went and took a test and I am negative. But the symptoms were just like, I could smell everything, but I was feeling really run down. And Senator Green, my good friend Katie, said, you know what, you're probably not drinking enough water. And water also led to a discussion about streams of support. So I was talking to her about the fact that recently my husband reached out for support from someone else other than me. And I was a little bit frustrated because I went, why isn't he coming to me? I'm his mainstream of support. And I realized, along with her help, how important it is to realize that everybody needs different streams of support. One person can't do everything, which is what led me into the conversation about it takes a village, not a cottage. And when I think of a cottage, I don't know about you, I think about a very small, rustic place, maybe out in the mountains. And while that sounds pleasant for a short amount of time, it's not really sustainable. Village needs to have water and food and transportation and things like that. So it's definitely something where you want to make sure that you are being of support to people when they need it. So streams of support. Ever since I've been drinking the water, I've been feeling a lot better. Now this is day 4. I'll report back. I actually have started tracking it on my little board here because I want to see how I'm feeling. And I want to see, do I feel better? Do I feel worse? And I'm going to do it for a full week. I'm on day 4 right now, but I feel so much better. And as a speaker and a performer, it makes sense to be better hydrated. I think we all know this. doesn't mean that we do it. So as I send you on your way for your day, I want to talk to you about what can you do to be a stream of support for someone else. And sometimes it can be as simple as asking the question, how can I support you? Now, if the person says, I don't know, which is a completely acceptable answer to how can I support you, because if you think about it, there's a lot of pressure in that question. They have to come up with an answer for you. People have talked about this too. Like sometimes you can just show up quietly. You can send food. You can offer to babysit. There's a lot of different things that you can do to show support. And I think that this concept of streams of support really helps me too, because when I think about water, I think about balance. I think about, clean running water. And, back in February when we all had the winter apocalypse here in Texas, it became much more precious to have water. And so I will continue with my path of drinking more water. And I'm going to ask you, what is it that you need in way of support? And it's a question I ask my friends. It's a question I ask my family, because I think that it's important. And sometimes their answer reveals more about what they need than the actual question. It's basically saying, I'm here for you. What do you need? Sometimes it's a text message, and sometimes it's just check in on me. And sometimes it's, I could really use some babysitting in a couple of weeks. And it just depends on what that person needs. And they might not be able to articulate it. That's the important thing about the what can I do to support you question. So really think about it when you ask that question. When the person responds, what are you prepared to do? So what can you do to be a stream of support to somebody today? And most importantly, what are your streams of support? Ask yourself that question as you move into this day, and go drink some water. I'm Jen Haston, and this has been Haston Helping Hands. Like and subscribe. Please share if you have somebody who might need this inspiration, motivation, or frustration. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, y'all.